In ancient spiritual philosophy, there is a concept called chanting, the state of your inner contemplation. But look closely at our daily lives, and you'll notice we spend most of our finite mental energy destroying our own chanting by obsessing over the flaws of others. We constantly judge who is good and who is bad, entirely missing the trap we're walking into. That trap is the realization that every single system we rely on for safety, security, and acceptance operates on a strict conditional ledger. You get out exactly what you put in, and your standing is entirely dependent on your ongoing performance. Take the first level of the hierarchy, human society. We build social safety nets and gather circles of friends. But the moment you lose your wealth or your health fails and you become a burden, you quickly find those fair weather connections vanish. People stop visiting. Society's acceptance is conditional on your utility. Even if you look up to the cosmic level, the rules don't change. This diagram illustrates how karmic laws operate. When you perform good deeds, you earn punya, spiritual merit. You treat it like a cosmic bank account, and as you do good, the gauge fills up, purchasing you temporary rewards and favorable conditions from the universe. But there is a terrifying flaw in this system. Your good karma is finite. You spend it. And the second that spiritual bank account hits zero, the universe cuts you off. You drop right back down to the baseline where you started, completely unprotected. Relying on the conditional ledgers of human society or cosmic karma leaves us constantly vulnerable. Because in these systems, one misstep, one loss of resources, or one depletion of your merit means you are entirely on your own. You might think the exception to this rule lies at the very pinnacle of human relationships, the spiritual teacher, or guru. These are figures defined by immense reverence, wisdom, and deep compassion. But a human guru is still bound by physical realities and institutional rules. They have to maintain the sanctity of their ashram and protect the wider community of students. They operate with necessary, strict boundaries. This creates the guru's dilemma. If a disciple is deeply flawed, consistently breaks the rules, or brings toxicity into the environment, the guru has to make a hard choice. To protect the purity of the institution, they are forced to expel the flawed student, cutting them off from their physical presence and guidance. So look at the reality we live in. Society abandons you when you lose your wealth. The cosmos abandons you when you run out of good karma. Even a spiritual master will abandon you if your flaws threaten the community. Does true unconditional refuge actually exist anywhere? There is exactly one exception to the universe's transactional rules. The divine operates on a logic that completely defies human expectations. This graphic shows the difference between the karmic ledger and the mechanism of Shrinathji, or absolute surrender. On the left, you see the complex, fragile maze of earning and losing merit. On the right, Shrinathji bypasses the maze entirely. It doesn't rely on accumulating points. It relies entirely on a direct, unbroken line of connection. This creates the paradox of the durachari, the deeply flawed devotee. Divine logic states that a profoundly immoral person, someone completely lacking in good karma, can still achieve salvation. The only requirement is that they hold on to a desperate, unyielding connection to the divine, crying out for help.
Compare that to a highly successful, perfect worldly person. They might follow all the rules, but if they rely entirely on their own ego, their wealth, and the transactional systems around them, they remain trapped in the maze. When their resources dry up, they fall. Divine grace doesn't demand that you polish yourself to perfection before you are allowed through the door. It accepts the flawed, broken material exactly as it is, simply because the connection was made, and then does the work of purifying it from the inside out. To see how unyielding this mechanism actually is, we can look at a historical account involving the revered guru Sri Vitalnath and his disciple Krishnadas. Krishnadas had committed a serious error, and true to the guru's dilemma, Sri Vitalnath formally rejected him. Krishnadas was expelled, stripped of his duties, and physically barred from entering the temple. The human ledger was closed, but shortly after, the guru witnessed something impossible. He observed the temple's deity, Shrinathji, actively consuming piping hot jalebis, a type of sweet. Sri Vitalnath knew for a fact that no one in the temple kitchens had prepared jalebis that day. The answer lay miles away. Krishnadas, living in exile, was walking through a market, watching hot jalebis being cooked. Unable to physically serve his deity, he bypassed the physical world entirely, making a purely mental offering of the sweets directly to the divine. Sri Vitalnath confronted the deity. He pointed out the broken rules. Krishnadas had been cast out. He was a rejected, flawed disciple. How could his mental offering possibly be accepted? The divine's response outlined the ultimate difference between human boundaries and absolute grace. A human teacher has every right to abandon a student who breaks the rules, but the divine never ever severs a bond once a soul has taken true refuge. The judgment of the guru was completely overridden. It proves that while every human and cosmic safety net has a breaking point, God's grace is the only truly unbreakable connection in existence. So if we know that the world operates on brutal transactions, but absolute grace is available, how should that dictate our actions when we wake up tomorrow? First, it requires an immediate internal shift. We have to stop bleeding our finite mental energy dry by participating in the world's favorite pastime, judging others. Listening to gossip and cataloging people's flaws only ties you tighter to the transactional maze. You need a practical defense mechanism. When you find yourself in a room where people are tearing someone else down, mentally plug your ears. Focus your inner chintan back on the divine. Turn around and calmly walk away from the noise. Then there is the external shift. Human society has a dark instinct. When someone stumbles on their life's path, the crowd's first reaction is often to kick them deeper into the mud. We are required to provide a radical alternative. When you see someone falling, you don't judge the flaws that caused the fall. You act as a vessel for that unyielding divine compassion. You rally the people around you, reach into the mud, and pull them back onto their feet. When you abandon the exhausting work of worldly judgment and anchor yourself strictly to divine refuge, you achieve something rare, absolute fearlessness, because you know with certainty that no matter how hard you fall or fail, you belong to a force that will never let you go.